Hi, everybody. It's Patty, and I'm here today to tell you a story. Now, this is a story that I learned earlier this summer from a storyteller named Bill Harley. Bill Harley lives here in Massachusetts, where I live. And Bill Harley said he learned this story a long time ago from another storyteller named Jim May. But I was listening to Bill Harley this summer on the computer when he told this story. And it's a great story for this summer. And he said that we should listen and we should learn it, and then we can tell it to other people. So here I am. I'm going to tell it to you. And it's a story about friends. And there was one friend named Mr. Piggle and another friend named Mr. Wiggle, and they were not just good friends, they were the best of friends. And Mr. Piggle lived over here in his little house, opened the door, went inside, closed the door, and Mr. Wiggle lived over here in his little house, opened the door, went inside, closed the door. And one day, Mr. Piggle wanted to go and visit his friend, Mr. Wiggle, because they are the best of friends. So he opened the door, he came outside, he closed the door, and he went over the mountain, over the mountain, over the mountain, over the mountain, until he came to Mr. Wiggle's house. And he knocked on the door, but nobody answered. And he knocked on the door, but nobody answered. And he knocked on the door, but nobody answered. Oh, so sad. So he went back over the mountain, over the mountain, over the mountain, over the mountain, till he came back to his own little house, and he opened the door and he went inside and he closed the door. And then the next day, Mr. Wiggle said, I'm going to go and visit my friend Mr. Piggle. I miss him because we are the best of friends. And so he opened the door and he came outside and he closed the door. And Mr. Wiggle went over the mountain, over the mountain, over the mountain, over the mountain, until he came to Mr. Piggle's house. And he knocked on the door, but nobody answered. And he knocked on the door, but nobody answered. And he knocked on the door, but nobody answered. Oh, so sad. So he went back over the mountain, over the mountain, over the mountain, over the mountain, till he came back to his own little house. And he opened the door and he went inside and he closed the door. And then a few days later, Mr. Piggle thought, I really want to go and visit my friend Mr. Wiggle. And Mr. Wiggle thought, I really need to go and visit my friend Mr. Piggle because they were the best of friends. So they opened the door and they came outside and they closed the door and they went over the mountain, over the mountain. Oh, 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 they met each other halfway and they were so excited to see each other. They jumped up and down and they ran around in circles and then they wanted to give each other a big hug. No hugs right now. Not today, anyway. But, oh, they knew what to do and they reached down into their pockets and they each put on their mask. And then they could stand near each other, but not too close. And they could talk and tell each other about their adventures and their lives. And they talked and they talked and they talked and yada 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 until it was time to go. And then, oh, they wanted to hug, but they knew they couldn't. Not yet. So they bowed, and then they each went back over the mountain, till they came back to their own little house, and they opened the door, and they went inside, and they closed the door. And I need you to remember that even when your friends aren't near you, they are still your friends, and they will be waiting to see you.